So, okay, so I think this is a little sensitive. So, cottage industry considerations. This is called cottage industry. That's something that we've been faced with a number of times. Contract workers are getting paid by the piece. Children will be working. Absolutely. So, is it okay if children are working, since it's so far down the supply chain? We've talked about that. What if children won't have money for shoes or school if they don't help to paint? This also happens. We've heard this argument before. So they're sitting at the kitchen table, they're getting paid, I don't know, 50 cents a piece? But that's what buys shoes for the kids, and that's what enables the kids to go to school. But you have to think about the bigger picture. So chemical exposure to the children, to the paint, to the thinners, and the environmental considerations that we've talked about. So if they're paying by the piece at the kitchen table, what are they doing with the waste product? Probably taking it to the stream out back and rinsing out, contaminating the environment. So there's a lot of considerations, and that we have to take very seriously when we're looking at doing business with a new supplier.
Well, and from Golfright's perspective, we're a very small, Golfright's a tiny part of the overall Eaton picture and how big they are. And if we did something such as the Ready Caddy, and we got it from the supplier, and something like this happened, it's not going to be the GM of Golfright that's going to be on the Today Show. It's going to be the CEO of Eaton, who's going to have to answer for our decision for, you know, a $3 million profit that we wanted to make. So while we're losing out on that, in the long term, it pays off. I mean, it's important to do the right thing and to consider how many other people are going to be impacted by your decisions.
Absolutely. It goes back to the one bad apple. Well, this isn't even a bad apple. It's just somebody not doing their homework, and the potential impact it could have on the entire company. So I think you guys covered a lot of these, the quality and availability, all of the labor issues, environmental concerns, health and safety, working conditions, operating permits, and human rights and fair employment practices. These are the things that we look at when we're going in and doing due diligence in a supplier. There's other things, but these are the ones that really pertain to the ethics scenarios. So how do we protect ourselves? Any ideas?
Asking questions.
Asking questions.
Doing research.
Yeah.
Staying proactive.
What about contractually?
Just staying on top of all your accounts.
Having some city clauses.
Escape clauses, but more importantly, we have a supplier code of conduct. So before we ever get into that contract, we ask them to sign the supplier code of conduct. And this is something that we do. We have, I don't even want to venture out, I guess, on how many suppliers around the world, because we make so many different products in so many different industries. But all of our major suppliers around the world are required to sign the supplier code of conduct. And we update it we don't update the code every 2 years. We update the list of people that needs to sign it every 2 years and send it out and get the signatures of the suppliers. The highest level person in the supplier organization is supposed to sign it and send it back to us. So, which covers these things like environment and labor laws, fair employment practices, and discrimination. And it gives us the right to do compliance monitoring. So if we're going into a supplier and we see, we want to check on it, we have a suspicion. We want to go and check and see how well they're upholding their commitment to their supplier code of conduct. We have the right to go in and to audit them. And if they aren't meeting the standards, well then we have a choice to make. Do we put them on an improvement plan and go in and continue to monitor them additional times to make sure they've made improvements, or do we cease doing business with them? And that's the situation we're faced with oftentimes when we go in and do the compliance monitoring. And if a supplier is not willing to sign up to our supplier code of conduct, a lot of times we choose not to do business. So it's one of the ways we use to protect ourselves. So this was a very real product opportunity for Golfright, as Melissa said. They went through the testing, and in the end, the manufacturer refused to allow us to do their production facilities. So we declined the opportunity, and it was a missed product of about $3.5 million. Missed profit.
Somebody else took it on, or obviously?
I don't know if they sold it to anyone else. Did they sell it to someone else?
I don't know if they pitched it to anyone. This was literally a decision that we went through December, January.
Okay, but recently.
Yeah. Where we ultimately made the decision to walk away from the deal.
That leads to the next question is, this is even if this product were made in this country and it costs more, it still looks like there's a really good profit potential.
Mhm.
Was Golf Pride or Eaton intrigued in any way, shape, or form to say, you know what, this is still a good idea? Should we pursue it on our own, or did that ever come up, I guess?
Is it patented?
Yeah, my assumption is that it was patented, and we were very careful about the process when an idea comes into golf right, because we get it all the time with grips. Hey, I've got a great idea for a grip. We immediately send them up the ladder to Eaton person first, because we have to be very careful that they don't ever say, well, that was my idea, and I present it to them in golf right.
Yeah, we have a lot of intellectual property lawyers that focus on these types of issues. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Because we don't want to be accused of stealing someone else's idea.
how about if you made something similar that wasn't patented?
If it's not patented, then, assuming that from an intellectual property our lawyer signed off on it, then it might be okay. But usually they look at a lot of things because patents can be pretty far-reaching. So, and then, and it's the whole concept of doing business right, and redesigning, and there's a lot of debate on the idea of redesign. Taking somebody else's design apart, understanding how it works, and then producing something slightly different. And that's so case by case, and usually there's a lot of attorneys involved in it to decide if it's the right thing to do. So, and again, just another quote, around the world, conducting business in an ethical manner is an integral part of Eaton. And other examples, this was a couple of years ago, but talking about how it transcends down through the supply chain, and even lower level suppliers up through an organization can cause harm. So Gap, the clothing company, they were using child labor their suppliers were using child labor to produce the Gap kids' clothes. So, and they were under a lot of scrutiny, there was a lot of publicity about it. So they unknowingly used child labor in design and production clothes in India. It ceased doing business with 23 factories due to code violations, and they had 90 people out auditing